Even though Dream Theater finally released their debut album When Dreamin' Day Unite, it didn't really do anything for them. And then all of a sudden the band started to have some problems. They got rid of their singer Charlie Dominici because he wasn't the singer they wanted. And they finally found this singer from a glam metal band named Kevin LaBrie. And when he joined Dream Theater, together they all produced their biggest album of all time. Images and Words is one of my absolute favorite Dream Theater albums. It's the first album I heard from them. It came out in 1992, and the artwork is very, very bizarre. It shows a little girl in a room, and you see a heart that's on fire, tangled in barbed wire in the corner. I never really understood the symbolism there. Now, when I first heard this album, it really confused me, because I didn't really know what to expect. I was kind of listening for like a Iron Maiden sort of sound, but I got a lot more than that. There was a lot of like jazz in there, and a lot of great melodies, and instantly I thought this album was very cool, but I always put it away for some reason. It takes a couple listens to finally grasp these songs on any of their albums. So I definitely would say, if you are trying to become a Dream Theater fan, trying to get into their stuff, start here. With this album, they got, like I said, James LaBrie, whose real name is Kevin LaBrie, but they changed it to James because they had Kevin Moore in the band already, so they didn't want another Kevin. Yet there's already two Johns in the band, so what the fuck ever. And he was definitely an improvement over Charlie Dominici because his vocals are more like Bruce Dickinson, they're more operatic, but I would describe him more as sounding kind of like a glam singer. He's got this like weird fairy sort of timbre to his voice. And they were signed to Atco Records right when they got James LaBrie, so they had a pretty much better label, but Atco's not very known. And they originally wanted to make this a double album, throwing on, I think, To Live Forever, I think it's called, and they were also going to throw on the Change of Seasons song, which we'll talk about later on the EP. But the record label wanted them to cut those two songs out, but they still produced a great, great album. But I do think if they kept those two songs on and maybe cut out like Surrounded or something, you would have a masterpiece here. Now the production on this is very, very, very 80s, especially with the triggered drum sound, which has this very, very loud snare sound to it. Now definitely I'd say the best thing about this album is James LaBrie sounds very, very young and pre-voice decay. Now the music on this album is absolutely incredible. It showcases truly what Dream Theater will become with great progressive metal epics. And another thing that definitely was boosted is the performances in this album are incredible and leaps and bounds better than When Dreamin' Day Unite. With this, it starts showing a lot more instrument jack-offery, I guess you'd call it. But I think it's still done tastefully here. There's a lot of great spiderwebbing, guitar and keyboard melodies. The bass, there's a lot of really great bass features from John Mayung in this album. And of course, the drumming's great. They originally, I think, had Take the Time and Another Day as the singles, or I think just Another Day because that was kind of the ballady song, so they thought they'd get a hit with that. They were just kind of going around playing clubs and stuff, and all of a sudden people kept requesting Pull Me Under, the first song on the radio, over and over and over again. It became a huge hit. So then all of a sudden it blew up and they had to make a music video for it really quick that was extremely low budget and very cheesy. And yeah, it became to this day their only really big hit, and it was like a top 10 hit. And it really solidified this band as a household name in metal today and progressive rock. The song is absolutely incredible. I mean, some could argue it's overrated because it's like the huge hit that they had. But let's be honest here, dude, Pull Me Under is a fucking awesome song. The intro is really bizarre and what hooked me because they have a really weird acoustic guitar sound, and it has like a ton of weird reverb to it. And then they keep having all the instruments come in. Of course, Mike Portnoy's drum sound is incredibly loud and destroys your eardrums. The intro is just so melodic, it keeps building up upon itself. There's a lot of changes and really great riffs. Then we get to this transition from the intro to the verse of the song. What they do is they play this like weird polyrhythmic riff, but they play it in like, I think you call it like a 3/4 sequence or something like that, where they play the whole measure through and then play half the next measure and then go right into the verse. It sounds so weird, but I've heard it so many times. I know right when they go into the song. And then James' vocals in this part are perfect. He's doing like this weird sort of like Mid-Eastern vocal style. It sounds really great here. And then the melody's building up to the crazy keyboard part is perfect. And then you have James hit that shrill scream while the rest of the band is playing this like really crazy like thrash metal riff. And this is where James really shines. He's hitting these really great shrill high notes and he sounds perfect. And then they go into this one part I really like where it's the "This World Is Spinning Around Me" part. I guess you could call it like the pre-chorus or something. The chorus is pretty standard, but it's really catchy and awesome. But what I really like is the middle section of the song when it returns like that ambient, beautiful intro. But then they add a twist to it. They add like this weird jazz drumming all of a sudden in the middle of that section. And they have Kevin Moore play this really, really great keyboard solo. And then that kicks into one of my favorite John Petrucci solos ever. It's one of his most toned down solos, I guess. It's not really crazy, but it's so perfect with the music. There's a lot of bands that kind of just drone on in their songs, but with Dream Theater, their songs are long for a reason because they just keep adding more cool stuff to it. Now, there's a little bit of an outro to this song that goes on for a while, but then they just randomly cut before they could like finish the measure, so it sounds kind of weird. But then that goes into Another Day, one of the singles off the album. And it's a ballad. This is one of the reasons why I kind of fell out with this album way back before I fully got into Dream Theater. I just heard this album and Awake, and I fell out with them because I wasn't the biggest fan of this song. It was kind of a cheesy ballad. The singing I've always thought was very, very corny, but I've grown to really appreciate it because it sounds more like a jazz ballad. There's like a saxophone and everything in there, and the keyboard work sounds really great. And I really love John Petrucci's guitar work here. The build to the middle part I've always found kind of weird because they have James LaBrie hitting these constant high notes getting to it. And then all of a sudden they play this weird like thrash metal riff that's completely out of nowhere for like 2 seconds. And then it goes into this really amazing John Petrucci guitar solo that sounds very jazzy. And he puts a ton of soul into that solo. A really, really great song, and I like the saxophone playing in there. Then we have what's always been one of my favorite songs in the album, Take the Time. The intro has this like cool like keyboard swell, like holy shit, what's gonna happen? And then the band comes in playing this really epic riff. And then they go into this really cool like thrashy riff. There's a lot of like really crazy guitar harmonics in that riff, and the rhythm playing in that section is great. And then of course Kevin Moore goes into this really crazy keyboard solo, and all of a sudden we go into this groovy section with John Mayung leading that. That bass riff is just so hard to follow because it's very unorthodox and all over the place. And then when the groove starts setting in to that, letting you know this is probably going to be like the verse or something, all of a sudden you hear these like samples from other songs where you hear this person saying like, hold on, then another song, wait a minute, and then another song going like, come on, which I believe are all samples from like, well, I know the last one, the Come On, is from a Public Enemy song. And I think the sampling works perfectly for that part because it's just so out of the ordinary and weird. And then James LaBrie comes in with what I consider to be a rap. It's so different, but I think they did it tastefully here. He's hitting these like really shrill, mean notes. And then when he hits that high note, they go in probably the best riff of the entire song. It sounds so epic and jazzy. This song kind of feels pieced together in a way because it's just so random. There's so many changes. It's all over the place. They'll do this crazy, thrashy speed metal riff, and all of a sudden it goes right into the chorus out of nowhere. But that chorus is absolutely amazing. You can feel the wind coming on as you take the time. I always find myself hitting the high note that the band hits to the take the time, and then they get into the middle section where they have this like weird sort of sampling from something in Spanish, and then they go into this really crazy riff that kind of sounds dark, but then all of a sudden they go into like this jazzy build-up where you have this really, really great guitar riff from Petrucci, and then he does this really great solo, and then keyboard solo, and then they just kind of keep intertwining. And then I love the part in the song where it gets into this like mid-tempo, thrashy groove where Kevin Moore is doing this really cool keyboard solo that sounds incredibly jazzy. And then when you think it's over after they do the last chorus, James continues like humming this melody, and all of a sudden the band comes in again playing this like new riff, and then they do like a new chorus at the end. Like I said, they have their songs go on and stuff at the end because they like to do jams, but it's done tastefully. This song is amazing. Then we have absolutely my least favorite song on the album, and kind of the reason I've never considered this album to be as perfect as some other people do, because this song is good, but it's nothing that special. It just kind of sounds generic to me. The intro is kind of quiet and melodic, then it goes into the more fun atmosphere, sort of rock vibe. It just doesn't feel like progressive rock or metal to me. That's why I've never been the biggest fan of this. I will say though that James LaBrie sounds really great in this song. Then we get to one of the absolute stunning achievements on this album, the Metropolis Part 1, The Miracle, and The Sleeper. The intro is very epic and ambient, and there's a lot of great Kevin Moore stuff in there. And I've always felt that one of the intro things that Kevin Moore does sounds like a freaking sprinkler, you know, that you put outside to water the lawn. And I love that like weird drumming part that they do in the intro when it slows down a little bit, and then Kevin Moore plays that insanely crazy keyboard line. Then it gets really heavy to let you know that this song means business, and then James LaBrie comes in with these great high notes. The song is just so unorthodox. There's no chorus of any sort, but my favorite part is when it gets kind of like melodic and James is building up this atmosphere, and then he says the line "swimming in a lake of fire," and then hits this great high note, and then that whole section after that is my favorite part of the entire song. He says something like, "As a child I thought I could live without pain, without sorrow. And then as a man, my sorrows have caught up with me. I'm asleep and so afraid." The way James sings that part is just so perfect. And then the most notable thing about the song though is that it actually goes into a very, very, very lengthy middle section that takes up about half the entire song. Like pretty much most of this whole song is instrumental. There's a lot of great changes and stuff. It's total progressive rock from this point on. There's this really great bass solo in that middle section, which is probably the shining moment of that. But my favorite part of that middle section has to be towards the end, when they play this really weird section where they have the keyboards going like, and they keep building up upon that, and it sounds like John Petrucci's playing like a guitar solo backwards or something. It's really weird. He keeps like sliding it the wrong direction. And of course they have the part at the end that's very melodic and James singing these really great high notes. It's just such a very unique song and very bizarre. They've really done nothing like this. Then we have the awesome song Under a Glass Moon, which took me a while to appreciate. It has a very epic intro, and this song focuses a lot on the guitar playing. The main riff is very badass, and it goes into this verse that's kind of this mid-tempo groove, and James is singing these incredible high notes. And then they change the verse a little bit, and he's singing even higher notes. It sounds even better. And then they go into this pre-chorus where the drumming gets really, really fast, and the song gets very frantic, and James is singing really, really good here. And then I really love the second verse where they change it up. They do like a really melodic part that's still really like fast tempo. And I love how John Petrucci's just doing like quick melodic chords, but then you have Kevin Moore playing these really great melodies along with James LaBrie singing. And then you get to the middle section where it keeps building up and building up and building up. It just sounds like it's going to build up a scream or something incredible, and then you get to the song Stop suddenly, and John Petrucci plays his best solo of all time. This solo is so unique because it goes through all these different types of music within a minute. It's a lot of John Petrucci kind of wankery, but it's not just random notes. He's going in certain scales and transitioning to different types of music perfectly. At first he's playing some like really crazy like jazz stuff, and then the drums all of a sudden go into like a groove and he's playing blues music, and then he goes into classical music and then some more crazy metal shredding. It's just all over the place. And then when he couldn't get any better, Kevin Moore comes in and throws in this really great keyboard solo. And when he's doing that keyboard solo, I love the really cool drumming that Mike Portnoy's doing in that section. It just sounds so odd. Then we have Wait for Sleep. It's a shorter one that mostly kind of serves as the intro for the next one, but could also serve as his own song. And I think it was only written by Kevin Moore. It's mostly keyboard. He plays like this really cool piano line in one hand and then cool synthesizer lines in the other. And you have James LaBrie singing some what I think is Dream Theater's most lyrically best songs. I just can't help but sing along with it. Some of the lyrics are amazing. I don't even know what the hell the song's about, but it's just the way that James sings them and how creative the lyrics are themselves that it's just so hypnotic. Then we go to the last song, Learning to Live, which is easily the most progressive song of the entire album. Now, it starts with this amazing keyboard line, this great, crazy intro that's very progressive. It keeps changing constantly. And then you get into this amazing Kevin Moore keyboard solo that sounds very jazzy. It's probably my favorite Kevin Moore keyboard solo. And all of a sudden it goes to this bass groove. It's very slow and mellow. But then all of a sudden Kevin Moore's keyboard comes in and it gives this very haunting atmosphere, and James LaBrie's singing is like very depressing. And all of a sudden the guitars come in with like a very melodic sound, and James is singing these very passionate notes. And my favorite line from the whole song is when James says, "I'm begging you from the bottom of my heart to show me understanding." And then from that point he keeps getting higher and higher with his notes. And I also love the line, "And when temptation brings me to my knees and I lay here drained of strength, show me kindness, show me beauty, show me truth." And then it goes to this kind of weird chorus, but then it gets really heavy again, this slow pace. The song just keeps changing. It's all over the place. And then it gets into this like weird melodic bridge sort of section where James is singing this really weird kind of cheesy melodic notes. But he does hit a really great high note at the end of that, which leads into the middle section where they're just playing a lot of melodic instrumentation. And all of a sudden the song stops and you hear this Spanish guitar piece from John Petrucci that sounds absolutely amazing. And then they build up this epic section, and then he switches from melodic guitar playing to electric guitar. And then at the end of this build-up, you have James singing these notes that keep getting higher and higher, and then he hits this incredible scream, leading into John Petrucci's great solo. And at the end of that, the whole band plays this interwebbing section together that's really bizarre, and I can't even imagine how they memorize that part because it's just so odd. And all of a sudden the song stops again. You think it's going to be over, but nope. They come in with that Wait for Sleep keyboard part, and then the rest of the band keeps coming in and playing on top of that. And then John Petrucci plays another solo that's more mid-tempo and jazzy. It sounds incredible. Now this whole section where they come in, like I said, with the Wait for Sleep part till the very end is my favorite section of the entire album, and probably my favorite Dream Theater section. It makes this one of my favorite Dream Theater songs because of the unison they do here. So like I said, they have the John Petrucci solo, and then they do that unison again with the Wait for Sleep keyboard part. All of a sudden Kevin Moore does a really great jazzy solo that's very passionate, and then they do a new unison where everyone's playing this incredibly melodic and memorable line together, and is probably my favorite section of any Dream Theater song. And then James LaBrie singing these great high notes towards the end, and then once again you think the song's going to be over, and they do a jam at the end where it's mostly driven by John Mayhews bass playing. Then you can kind of hear some melodies being sung by James LaBrie, but they're very muffled.